All right, I think I got her going. I never hit start stream on. Well, it's working. All right. What in the world is wrong? I think I got it going, but it never asked me to start stream. It just started on its own. Um, so yeah, we're live now. Didn't mean to do that. And now I'm locked into this spot because now I can't unplug anything.
I think maybe I'll just stay back here.
I didn't think this through.
This decision.
Well, I do need the plug-in for this thing because this thing is about to set on fire because the processor cannot handle everything. Is the plug-ins over there? Everything this thing is running. So you get to run the board this time. Right there. You need a beverage and tell Clay to stop working. Oh, I need to send you this stream too. And I'll put it on the Copeland Creative. I'll put it on the Copeland Creative page too.
Some dude named Caleb Copeland just texted me. What the heck did you want? Can they even hear me?
I don't know. I hate this new Instagram thing.
Yeah,
It really sucks a lot.
Why?
Because if I get disconnected from the server while I'm importing footage, it freezes Premiere. It's the third time it's happened.
Oh, that's exciting. All right, I'm in. Clay?
Yeah, you do. It's in the podcast Pelican. It's really annoying listening to myself.
Yeah, I usually turn that off. Okay, so you posted it to Cope. I need to post it to Redneck Tech.
Yeah. I'm doing a swipe up on Cope right now.
He didn't have to flex that hard, but he did.
Do what?
I said Caleb didn't have to flex that hard,
What
but he
What I
did.
flex that hard?
The swipe up.
Oh, yeah.
Do you mess up the camera, Clay?
That's fine.
Luckily, it's a 16 to 35, so. You want player 3 or player 4? I can't do it sideways.
Yeah, when we get the studio upstairs built, this is going to be way cooler.
You're saying it's not already super cool?
It's kind of cool.
It would be Redneck Tech if we weren't Redneck.
This is...
I don't think it's going to work that way, Clay. Nope.
Why,
told
he's
you.
in number 4. Did you put him in 4?
Yeah.
That's fine. It doesn't matter.
He said he wanted to be number 4.
I can't hear myself.
You can't hear yourself? That's because we did.
What?
Every time we do this,
You
every podcast
no,
we switch.
literally, I have nothing in my ears. Zero.
0?
Mm-mm.
What are you, 2?
Yeah, number 2. Still not. Oh, there we go. There it is. Okay, right there.
So I think
Yeah,
we've determined
right.
Caleb is deaf
Yeah, not,
and he cannot hear.
no, there was nothing in there.
It was at that mark right there. It was right here last time.
There's nothing there.
Will you turn
Yeah.
it up a little bit, please?
There's something there. I got.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Oh yeah, you're running the board. Sorry, I forgot. Change jobs. Slap you.
Nice.
Slap him.
I don't like how the back doesn't spin with you. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I've never been a fan of that.
Well,
I can't hear myself.
You can't hear yourself?
I can hear you guys, but not myself.
Not
I
yourself?
can hear you, but you're low.
How about now?
1, 2, 3.
You're still low.
Maybe this isn't plugged up enough. Let's put in number 3. Go now?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's much
Oh,
better.
yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
bet 4's not got all the presets and everything
Ooh.
like we did in 1, 2, 3.
Turn me down a little bit.
Now he's too hot.
Turn all y'all down.
Oh,
Yowza.
Tony's here.
wait, which one?
3. Turn what I can hear down.
You're already at 0. Oh. Yeah. Here you go.
It's like we've never done this before.
How about-
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's a new. It's a rodeo every time.
Yeah, I don't think we've done this the same way twice.
No, we haven't.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's
We got a new
because
camera this time.
it's because we literally figure it out every time. We have to relearn it every
You're
time
not
we
doing
do.
it. Not doing it with the
There's-
R5
No,
Don't you
well,
love that?
The R5's got a different HDMI port on the side. Kind of made me mad a minute ago.
Mini.
What's something I have to Google every time I do it? Every time I need to pair microphones.
That's our liberal neighbor.
Oh, I bet he loves that Trump sign in the window. Every time I have to pair microphones, I have to look it up. I don't know why.
There's something that I do that I have to do that. Well, there's something else I have to do that too.
Oh, every time there's a proxy workflow. And
Yeah.
for
I
some
still
reason
don't know how to do that.
I've never done it.
I know the YouTube video.
This is why you should watch the podcast because of what Ryer just did. He just flexed
so hard.
so hard.
I mean, to be fair, every time I do the proxies the way that this YouTube video does it, I don't know, but Premiere like forgets, and then I have to do it all over again every time, and so then I have to go to the YouTube video and watch it again. And I don't know why it does that.
My wife took apart our washer. While I was on a trip, our washer went
Just
out.
took it apart.
Took it apart, went and bought tools to take it apart. Took it apart, fixed it, put it back together, still using that washer. And this has been a couple years ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's,
She just got mad enough to do it. And she's like, do you know how to do it? I'm like, I have no idea how to do it. YouTube. Now she thinks she's going to go work for Whirlpool one day.
hey,
She might do it.
it's good money if you can make it.
I guess, apparently. I figure we give time
Oh.
for the
Speaking
3
of
people that are going to watch.
ADHD, I forgot to post this on the Redneck Tech. That's why there's not anybody here yet. It's my fault. Take full responsibility for that. You know what? I don't take full responsibility. It's ADHD. Blame it on the ADHD. Linktree. Nah. Well, what if we do this? We're going to copy that link. Go ahead and throw that one in the notes so that I can reference that later because I'll need to put that back in the bio. That's the only thing I really don't like about Instagram is how weak their linking system is.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I think
it's
they do
real
it on
weak.
purpose.
Well, yeah, they don't want you leaving their platform.
Yeah.
I get that. But also at the same time, stop it, Instagram. Everybody wants to leave your platform for things. So you might as well just let them.
Have you guys looked at the new Parlor thing that came out?
Yeah,
I've heard
it's extremely clunky.
I've heard it's a cluster.
It is. It really, truly is.
It's like every 2 years, it seems like there's a new non-PC platform, and they never
They never go
they never
anywhere.
take off. And I think partially because the amount of people that you need for an app like that to succeed is very large, and the amount of people who care enough about Instagram and Facebook and YouTube censoring things is not large enough. Like, it's a very niche population of people.
Well, I would say that TikTok is another rendition of what Vine used to be, just
Mhm.
better.
Well, I think I liked Vine a little bit more than
I
TikTok.
never had Vine. I don't have TikTok.
You can't
either,
like
but
something more than TikTok.
I hate TikTok.
That's not true. There's
can't.
plenty of things that
I
I
can
like
name
more than
5
TikTok.
things right now I like more than TikTok, 100%.
Like, I would give up TikTok for coffee. I'd never watch TikTok again. Like, if somebody was like, you can either drink coffee or watch TikToks, I would give up TikTok forever for coffee or beer.
This is my disgust. Look at you.
Your face doesn't look very disgusting. This is, I guess, why you're behind the camera and not in front of it.
Pure disgust.
The acting is just
Subpar.
subpar.
The calling hunting guys are here. What's up? I think it is Mike. Mike just texted and said you guys were live. We have been listening a lot. Thanks for helping so much. You're welcome.
So you're telling me there's nothing that you would... What if somebody would... Okay, Caleb.
I'm really glad we haven't started the podcast.
Somebody said you can hunt or you can watch TikToks.
Oh, well, I'm going to hunt.
Okay,
That's not a
then-
fair comparison.
Well, then there are things that are better than TikTok.
No. I'm talking about social media apps.
You didn't say that.
I figured that was implied.
You can't imply things like
You know what
that.
happens when you assume.
Yeah, you get in trouble. Trust me. Wait till you get married and you assume some things.
Well, that's where you
First
just
three-
don't get married.
What's the first 3 letters in assume? Should
Mm.
tell you everything you need to know.
I can't say that word.
Yeah.
This is a family-friendly podcast.
It is.
For now.
For now.
Yeah. There's been a couple times I've wanted to go off the rails. This podcast being partially one of them.
I think people should really understand how clean I am managing to be on this podcast.
Oh, I'm very clean on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hint the yellings that I do from my office sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to ask the question I was about to ask.
Uh-oh. Now I want you to ask it because
Nope. Figured it out. Couldn't remember how to do live on Instagram. Shows you how many times I've done it. All right. I'm just
I
gonna,
hate the new Instagram update, by the way.
Do you want to do it since I'm doing this? You just go live or Clay or somebody?
Well, I don't have the login for the...
Oh, you do it then.
what am I doing?
Just go live on Redneck Tech, and if anybody wants to ask questions,
Oh, we're just going to be...
yeah, we're going to be those guys. We'll do questions on Devin's here.
They're only going to see my face.
Well, don't do it that way then. Put it somewhere else.
Well,
So
how
you
am I
get
going to
some-
see the questions? You put yours
Oh.
up there, and then I can see the questions. I can be...
Oh, well, that.
You know what I'm saying?
See, now we're
Know what I'm
thinking
saying?
with our head. Okay, we'll go live here. Checking connection. Should be excellent because we pay for internet in this place.
We got that cable.
All right, we're live now
We got that
on
fiber.
Instagram.
Oh, hey, look at that.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm going to be in there as Ryer Porter.
Got-
That's my at, so then I can...
These two
See what's
idiots.
up.
We're about to start a live podcast. Oh, don't you double click this to turn it around? No. Shut up, Ryer. Okay, we're about to start a live podcast.
It's like a grandma figuring out FaceTime for the first
I'm going to
time.
do live. We're doing live on here. Ryer's going to be answering questions here. And then we are also live on the YouTubes on that camera. So,
Which is the Canon R5.
no, that's kind of 5D Mark IV.
5D R5.
That one is?
That one over there is the R5. That's the
Which
5D
one?
Mark IV. Ryer.
I've been bamboozled.
I
I thought
told-
that one looked too familiar.
Yeah.
In my head, I thought that was the R5. I was like, wow, this seems a lot like
This
It's
is
the 5D Mark V.
this. Yeah, I was like, this feels like a lot like my 6D.
Yeah. So
I was like, it's funny how familiar a new camera is.
yeah.
Why don't
So,
you put it up there so then I could see everybody?
well, I don't want to pull out cords here.
I got some flexibility.
Here, do it like,
As I step on my own cord and rip it out of my
do it over
headphones.
there.
Lean it
Somewhere.
up against that golden moose.
Yeah. It's a perfect spot for it. Why can't you do it sideways? That's so dumb.
I know. Yeah.
I hate that about it.
I promise I don't care if I'm in it.
I don't care if I'm in it. That's why I was going to put it right here looking at y'all.
Yeah. Okay. Oh well. Yeah. There's
hate-
not really a
just for
great.
cut-
Just put it way back there. Since you're looking at the pictures on your thing, you're looking at, yeah. Oh. Guys, this is why it's called Redneck Tech right here. We are not smart.
Put the table up against the wall. Just
Oh my gosh. We're about to start the podcast, I promise. Yeah, making fun of me.
Should you face it towards us? That way we can.
Take some time. Okay. You can't rush excellence. There we go. I think we got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we've completely lost everybody, the 3 people that were watching, all right, guess we can go ahead and actually start that podcast part of it.
Too much of me? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, man.
The delay is astronomical. You have to give me a second.
Oh, suddenly he doesn't like to be rushed.
Oh, this is funny.
Didn't move. Didn't even move.
Just, guys, it doesn't matter that much. This was dumb to think we could go live on 2 different platforms at once. Somebody's going to call my phone and it's going to vibrate and fall off the table anyway.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to start this. All right, you got it. All right, put your headset on and start this thing. Let's get it going. So we're not here till midnight tonight. Probably should pull up my notes.
Do you want to just
Yeah.
do that part of it?
You want me to do that part of it?
Yeah, because I always mess it up,
Okay.
and you just have muscle memory. The Redneck Tech Podcast is brought to you by Diamondback Covers, the absolute best cover you could ever spend your money on. If you need an insurance policy for all the expensive gear on the back of your truck, then you need a Diamondback cover. Make the bed of your truck a vault with Diamondback.
Right here, right here, right here, right here. Yeah. You want it? Yeah. Welcome back, Redneck Tech Podcast. We have had a long hiatus. November is a really, really busy month for us. It is now November the 30th. And the last podcast we did, give me just a second, I'll tell you. I think it was the last time we were all in the office, which was a long time ago. And you're lucky that we're all in the office. Clay is not supposed to be here, but he is here now. Unfortunate series of events kept Clay here. Last podcast was a month ago.
Really?
Yeah,
That was-
it says
Wow.
1 month ago.
That was you and Ryer in the truck, wasn't it?
No, it was the server R5 and fall update. But here we are. We're podcasting. We are live on YouTube, and we're also live on Instagram on the Redneck Tech page. And if you are listening or watching or whatever, and anytime you want to ask questions, let us know. That's why we do these podcasts. So first thing I wanted to talk about was kind of where we're at and what we've been doing this fall. I like to give people an update because apparently they're interested in what we're doing. So I got the question a couple times, how many kills have we filmed this fall? And I was thinking the other day how many I had killed. Clay's probably winning because he went with Kip, and they killed a bunch of stuff. But you were winning last year because you went with Kip a lot. But you filmed quite a few. I think I might have the least amount of anybody.
Let's see. I had...
Think of your number. I'm trying to think of my number.
I can't do that in my head.
You got to talk out loud to do
Yeah,
it.
I can't do it in my head.
Just for the fall, not for the whole year.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember to the spring.
Since August.
Yeah, so I'll go through mine. So I started out with Dudley, which I started out with Greg. We did not kill a mule deer. Then I went with Dudley. We killed 2 pronghorns, a whitetail, a mule deer, and an elk. Then I killed my elk. And then me and Brian killed in South Dakota. And me and Brock didn't kill in New Mexico. I've had 3 or 4 unsuccessful trips. I think I'm at 7, but I should be at like 9 or 10. So I think I've got 7 myself this fall.
So I've got 2 elk in Utah,
Rub it in. Only got 1 elk.
1 archery, 1 muzzleloader.
So that's 9.
Huh?
That's 9 total so far.
Oh yeah, I got you. And then let's see. I don't think I was part of another kill until, let's see, Greg killed one in Missouri, and then Ernie killed one in Illinois, and then Chris killed one in Illinois. 5. I was on
So that's 5 total or 5 more since the 2?
5 total.
Okay, so that's 7. That's
12.
12. Okay.
I'm trying to think if I'm missing any, but
Okay, so I'm not losing.
Mm-mm.
So you've only got 5?
I only got 5.
Okay.
Are we counting that our camera filmed, or we were in camp? Like, because when I was at Greg's, there were
Oh,
3.
no, only your camera filmed it.
10.
Yeah.
10?
And 10, 8 of those are with Kip.
So 22. It's pretty solid.
Between 3 people, that's not bad.
No.
And that one of them was yours.
Yeah. So 22. Oh, one of them was mine, so that doesn't count because I counted that one. So 21. That's still good. 21 kills this fall, and it should have been more than that. Not bad. I mean,
My
Yeah, I
first,
started out with a dry spell, and then I got to Utah, and Utah was good.
I've been really,
Then my next trip was
I've been up and down.
really bad, and then the past couple trips have been pretty good.
Me and Dudley started out really slow. I didn't have the kill on the first trip. Then me and Dudley started out really slow. First 4 days, nothing. And like he started hitting panic mode. And then the next 4 days, we just killed everything. And then Kip had a really slow start. And he didn't really kill anything until November. And then it was just like killed
well,
everything.
He
between
didn't kill anything until you
8
went with him.
sets in Texas, we killed 6 animals,
Yeah.
That's about right.
and 3 of them were bucks.
God, Texas is such a great place.
My first 4 trips were unsuccessful. The first successful trip I had was yours.
Yeah. You know, just taking care of business.
I think the trip that I'm going on
Yeah.
with Kip is the doe killing massacre.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
how many? You
you'll
said
for
6 and 8 days?
But Paul said he's not taking his main does this year, so he's limiting Kip to what he can shoot doe-wise.
What?
This is the bullcrap. Called bullcrap.
I don't even want to go anymore. Why are you gonna limit us on does? I mean,
It's like how
my favorite kill shot from last year
was a doe.
was a doe from that trip.
It's like
Just
how
glorious.
Yeah, how many different ways can we film a doe being shot? It's like turns out there's a lot. There's a lot of different ways. You can get really creative with shooting does.
How many less is he gonna let us
Well,
shoot?
we already killed 3. So he said
but 3 is
he
like
said
that's
he-
like a morning.
he said he took
Like, that's
he said
not,
he took 60 last year. He's dropping it down to like 25 or 30 this
Oh,
year.
dang. That many?
Mhm.
Dang, that's a huge drop.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm with you. 3's like,
What?
it's like like a leisurely afternoon.
But it's
like,
also
how many have
it's also
been
like
killed
Kip
total?
said. Kip's like, if you don't let anyone shoot any, then I get to shoot 30.
Yeah.
So
Has he let people shoot any?
I have no idea.
He better not be.
People generally don't
Pay
go,
that
yeah,
type of money.
they don't go and shoot does.
We
That's-
tried to go film when we filmed with David.
Mm-hmm.
We literally tried to shoot a doe, and we saw $16 and no does.
Well, that's the problem with that place is like you show up and you want to hunt. You're like, I'm gonna shoot the crap out of some does, and then it's all bucks. And then when you're like,
Buck
okay,
parade.
fine, you've convinced me, we're gonna go for bucks. Then it's all does. It's like they know who you're going for.
Yeah.
Well, we've
Did you sit that one blind that was just got stupid bucks in there? Just all the bucks?
I mean, we saw 16 in one night, so that's pretty stupid.
yeah. There's one particular blind where it's like just every single buck
You know,
ever is in,
You
and
know,
you just see all of them. They all come right in.
It's so fun for me because I've gotten to do this and go to some awesome places for years and years. And then last year was your first time ever getting to experience, because you've been on a couple whitetail hunts when you were Mark that were just atrocious.
Yeah.
And then you go to Texas and it's just like all the deer ever. Like you get
all of them.
That place
tired of
will
seeing-
ruin you.
And then you this
Will
is
you
your
stop
first year
filming?
getting
I've never-
My first whitetail hunt in Texas.
well,
yeah.
it's your first year going to a place like that. That's
Yeah.
just like dumb.
I've turkey hunted a place like that where
Yeah.
you see all the deer during turkey season, but they're
Yeah.
all antlerless. But
Yeah.
seeing them with antlers is obviously different.
Yeah. So it's cool for me to get to hear you all and like getting text from Clay that's like, we saw 16 bucks and no does. This place is crazy.
This place is
And like,
stupid.
how's it going? Like, there's so many deer. And that's like you last year. You were texting like, I have so much deer footage.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like
You could put it on like Adobe stock and start selling it. You have so much.
yeah.
You just start doing stupid things. You're like, well, I don't know. I guess I'll just try to get these shots that I never ever get because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, I got 17 other shots. I can
Yeah.
That's what
use.
we've always called it, just deer porn. Just
Mhm.
people like watching deer, which that's the same thing like deer hunting. Deer hunting sucks unless there's something in front of you to watch.
Yeah.
If you've got deer in front of you, I don't care what it is. It's exciting. When there's deer moving and there's deer around you, feeding, moving around, chasing does, whatever it is, that's when it's fun. When you don't see anything, hunting sucks. Like you just did how many days at your family's place and y'all didn't see much? It
We
sucks.
covered, between the four of us in 5 days, we covered 32 spots and saw 4 deer.
Yeah,
which is very unnatural for our
Well,
place.
see, that's like me. I've taken my little boy hunting twice at our house. We haven't seen a deer either time. He fell asleep the second time. That's not fun for a kid. It's not fun
It's
for
not
me.
going to make him want to go either.
Yeah, it's not fun for me. I don't want to go if I'm not seeing anything, and I'm spoiled rotten. Like when I get home, my buddy's like, "Yeah, we're going hunting here." I'm like, "No, I'm not getting out of the bed to hunt here. Piss on that."
Mhm.
Like, no, I'm not going. Unless you have a deer tied up, like, I'm not going. I'm
Ruined.
I'm
It's
ruined.
been ruined.
I am. I'm so bad, and I'll be the first to tell you. Like I get in so many like my best friend Andre, and I hope he listens to this so he'll hear me say it again. Like he gets so mad at me. He killed a huge deer last year, and he killed another deer this year. And I'm like, all right, now you need to kill one with your bow. He's like, no, screw that, man. I'm shooting with my gun. I'm like, you're just. And he's like, you're just so spoiled. You're just this, that, and the other. You could go all these places. I'm like, you're not wrong. So
You got me there.
you did. So let's answer a question that I got on the YouTube.
Can we
And
make this a competition? Can we see who can get more questions?
Well, I've
YouTube or
already-
Instagram?
Already got one, so I guess I'm winning.
I see y'all there on Instagram. Don't let me down.
So the first question is from
I don't know which camera to look at.
we're doing a full podcast about lensing and settings here in a minute, but figured I'd answer this question while these guys are watching. Hopefully they're still watching. The calling said, one question that sticks out the most currently is in post audio. How do you mix ambient music and vocals properly? Seems to always be a bit different post render. Any formulas?
Mm.
I think they're asking just how do we mix those different things in post. So when you're editing and you have what we call your dialogue, which is the spoken word into the camera, then you have your ambient, which is wind blowing, hopefully deer sounds, turkey gobbles, whatever that is, all sounds of tractors, all the things that are happening around your camera as you're filming. Then you have your music track, and then sometimes you'll have some sound effects, some whooshes, or sometimes we add in sounds. Like if it's really dead and there's nothing happening, you'll add in birds chirping, you'll add in some wind, you'll add in some video mic sounds that kind of give it kind of a fullness to it. So in terms of how I mix that, it depends on what project I'm doing, but you just want to make those things as subtle as you can. Think about how you're sitting in a room and you hear things around you. You don't want to make birds chirping so loud that that's all you hear and that's all you can focus on. You want those things to be as subtle as you can. Like in terms of like what decibel or what level you put those things at, I don't have a perfect answer for that. Like, Ryan, you did a ton of sound design
Yeah.
on the Bluestem project. Like kind of what was your approach on how do you sound design that?
So I I do a lot of my approach to sound design is very segmented. So I have my just the regular camera shotgun microphone audio, and that always is right underneath the clip. And then underneath that, I've got a bunch of tracks, and I'll put in the field dialogue on its own track. I'll put narration or interview or voiceover on its own track. I'll put sound effects on their own track. I put the ambient audio on its own track, and I put the music on its own track. There's a couple of episodes where I had just like tons of tracks.
And the
'cause I was
reason you
keeping
put them in
things-
those tracks is so you can organize them. That way you can
Right.
literally look at your timeline and see, track 8, that's all my ambient. Track 4 through 6 is all my music track,
Right.
whatever that is. And that's just for organization. So you can
Yeah.
physically look and say, okay, this is loud. I know that's this track, lower that.
Yeah. So that's for me so that when I'm going through, I can see, especially with dialogue, I can see where those sections are that I need to what's called duck the audio. And so generally with dialogue, I'm trying to hit
Explain what ducking is before you go any further.
ducking would just be lowering the volume.
Yeah.
Um,
So when you got music, just to explain a little more, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. You've got music playing with no talking. It's going to be a little bit louder than when you start
Right.
hearing someone talk. You're going to lower that music track low enough to where you can hear and clearly hear what the person's saying. And then when this talking's over, you bring that music back up. So that's what ducking. You duck the music underneath the talking.
Yeah, so generally, as I'm going through my audio, my in the field or my narration, I'm trying to hit somewhere in the -9 to -12 decibel range. I found that's kind of a good sweet spot. And then my ambient audio, usually you're looking -18 to -25 decibels, just depending on what it is. I mean, that's kind of a by feel. Some tracks you may want a little louder, or some you might just want barely there. And then my music, I'm generally trying to hit that about -10 to 12 most of the time, unless I have, like you said, dialogue. Now, when the dialogue comes in, I lower the sound of the audio or the music track by anywhere from 10 to maybe 15 decibels, just
Mhm.
depending. We have a couple clients that really want that dialogue super, super low when, or the music, I'm sorry, super low when the dialogue or they are talking is present. But generally you're looking at a 10 or 15 decibel drop. So as I'm going through, I'm making sure that I kind of look at your camera sounds and your ambient as kind of like a base. And usually you're looking at wanting that to be -25, -18 decibels, somewhere in there. Like you said, where you can hear it, but it's not overpowering.
Well, and
it's
that-
not like it's
Sometimes those music tracks, when we get them, some will automatically come out louder than others.
yeah.
So that's why these numbers aren't like it's -15 every time. It can't be that way because, like you listen to some things, like I know, especially like when you used to rip old CDs or whatever.
Yeah.
One song will be really, really loud, and the next song will be really low, and you have to turn it up. It's kind of the same way when you get songs that like they're never perfect, so you have to.
You have to look at
You
the
have to-
audio meters, and
yeah.
you have to see where it's hitting on the audio meters, and then you adjust your levels to get to that certain point, which for me, for the audio, is like a -10, or the music is a -10 to a -12.
Yeah.
In the dialogue, you look at it, somebody maybe is whispering. It may take me raising their voice by 25 decibels in post to get them to that -12, -9 range. Or you've got me talking right now, maybe I have to lower it by 5 decibels or whatever to get to that. And so you just kind of play it by ear, you play it by feel, and it's honestly, you just have to go through
Mhm.
the whole thing and do it methodically. And that's the reason why I separate them out visually, because as I'm going through, I go, okay, I start on the top track, level that, get that to a nice base level. Then I go and make sure my dialogue is where it needs to be. And then I go down, and if there's dialogue, I lower the volume of the music. while that is happening, and then I bring it back up when it's done.
And there's ways in Audition, you can really smooth those levels out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a podcast for another day. On that, maybe we need to do that in a tutorial. But Audition's a whole different program outside of Premiere. It's virtually Premiere's for video, Audition's for audio. So it's there's lots of ways you can go in with the compressors and high pass filters, low pass filters, different things like that, to where you can take those levels that might be spiking in just a couple places, throw filters on there, and it really gets rid of those spikes and rid of those low areas. I know just enough about Audition to be dangerous. I'm not an Audition person, wish I was, but it's a completely different animal. But anyway, so there's the first question. We're gonna move on to the podcast, which is this podcast. I wanted to talk about camera settings and lensing. When I say lensing, it's what lens to use for different situations. I got a couple questions about what lenses we use for certain things. But I want to start out with camera settings, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is it's very general when you say camera settings. You've got your aperture, your f-stop, your shutter, your ISO. And then you have your focal length, which is what length your camera lens is at. So there's 4 different things that can change at any given time. So I know we've had some people in the past say they've screenshotted our, like when we've done some Instagram stories, they'll screenshot what our settings were on camera. That's all well and good, but how many times a day does that setting change?
Millions.
Yeah, all the time. It's never the same. The only time it stays the same is like when you do a night lapse. And the only reason it stays the same for there is because you need a long exposure. Other than that, you're still tweaking it to get it right. When we're taking pictures, when we're shooting video, our camera settings are constantly changing. And when I say constantly changing, like we could be shooting a 400 shutter speed one shot and a 48 shutter speed the next shot for a picture, just depending on what we're doing. It could change literally from one end of the spectrum to the other with lighting, day to night, morning to evening, morning to midday. It never stays the same. So looking at someone's camera settings, unless you're trying to get a specific shot in the exact same light they were taking that picture, is virtually useless. So you've got to be able to use your camera in a way and know how those things work, and then what lens to run for your particular situation. We talked about that with Greg on the phone today, and we've talked about it a million times of how to achieve certain things, how to put on a certain lens with a certain camera setting to achieve something. I'm trying to explain this in a way, and somebody help me out. Like how you use a camera setting to achieve a goal. That's why it's never the same.
Well, so you have the exposure triangle.
Yeah.
And at all times, you have to be cognizant of the exposure. You don't want a picture that is too dark. You don't want a picture that is too bright. You want to retain details in the shadows. You want to retain details in the highlights. And so you need to balance all of those things primarily. Like that's the first thing I would say that you need to know how to do, and you need to know how to mess with your f-stop, mess with your shutter speed, mess with your ISO, mess with ND filters in order to get a balanced image exposure-wise. Then, as you figure that out, you can start moving into using each of those individual settings for a desired look. Because each one of those, while they all contribute together to the total exposure of an image, each of them has its own individual effect on other aspects of the image. So you've got your f-stop or your iris, which is controlling your depth of field. It also has an impact on the sharpness of your image. You've got your shutter speed, which is controlling basically the blurriness of your image or the subject in your image. You've got your ISO, which is basically artificial light. I mean, that's really all it is.
Yeah, it's how sensitive your sensor is to light.
And then you've got your, why do I feel like I'm missing a major one? Your focal length, obviously, contributes
White
to...
balance, is that what you're thinking?
No, I was just thinking of the exposure triangle. I think I hit all three of them, all three of the major ones. But you also have your focal length, which controls how far you can zoom or how close you can make your subject look to the camera. But it also has an impact on your depth of field, and it also has an impact on how your image looks, as far as whether the background looks far away or whether the background looks close. The amount of compression or the amount of warping.
Yeah.
And so you have to then go, okay, if I want an image that looks like this, then I need to mess with this setting.
So,
And if you have a basis of how, if you know how exposed your image needs to be, then you know how to mess with all the other settings while leaving that one in a certain way, so that you can achieve that very specific shot that you're going for.
So, and that sounds complicated. And trust me, when I first started videoing and filming with a DSLR and a camera that ran everything in manual, which that's the way you learn, is put your camera in manual and learn it. It's not that hard. Trust me, guys. If I can figure it out, and it was daunting to me at the beginning. Like, what does that ISO do? Well, how does that ISO affect this shutter speed or this f-stop or that camera or this lens or whatever? It's not overly complicated. Get your camera, put it on manual, make yourself run it in manual. And to give you some examples, so early morning low light, your shutter speed is going to be really low. Okay. It's going to be as low as it can. So if you're shooting in 24 frames a second, the lowest it can go is 1/24th of a second. That's as low as it can go. You want it to be double that shutter speed, double your frame rate. So if you're shooting in 24, the minimum you want it to be is 1/48th of a second. You can go to 1/24th. I try and avoid that, but you can. Okay, what does that mean if I'm in that low of a shutter speed? That means my camera is gathering more light, but my image is going to be blurrier as it has quick movement or if things are moving, because that shutter is not staying open as long, or it is staying open longer. Sorry. So as it's staying open longer, that gives that image more time to shift in that short time frame. Now, as I'm getting light, I'm rolling that shutter up. Now my shutter's staying open less, so things are crisper and sharper. Now, and my f-stop's also going to be really low. So that means things are harder to be in focus. And as that light comes up and we get more light, then we start moving those numbers around. We can add more in our f-stop. We can add more shutter speed. Now things get crisper and sharper and easier to get in focus. And then when we need light in that low light, we can bump up our ISO. But if we go too far in our ISO, then our image starts falling apart. It's grainy. It looks like crap. All these things they all work together. And there's no one thing that solves all the problems. It's a constant balance and a constant juggle between all three of those things. I literally am changing settings all day long, every 2 minutes as the light changes. Or if I push in and I need a different look or this. Another great example, you want to shoot interviews. And we want to blow out the background of our subject. And when I say blow out, I don't mean make the highlights so bright behind them we can't see them. I mean I want my subject to be really, really sharp focus. Everything else be way out of focus. How do we achieve that? Okay, we want our f-stop, which is our aperture number, as low as we can get it. So my 7200 goes down to 2.8. So I'm going to roll that all the way down to 2.8. I'm going to push my lens all the way to the end. So it's a 70 millimeter to 200 millimeter. I'm going to push the lens all the way to 200 millimeter. Well, obviously, I've got to back up to fit my subject in that, because it's going to crop way in with 200 millimeters. So if I back all the way up, push into 200, roll all the way to 2.8, okay, that's going to make my image really bright. So I'm going to have to lower my shutter speed and lower my ISO. All right, now I'm at 200 and I push in, pull focus on my subject. Whether they fit in my frame like I want them to, everything else is going to be out of focus because of my f-stop, because of my focal length. That's the image I'm trying to achieve. Did I explain that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Where in the same token, if you didn't want your background to be out of focus and you left the camera and you made all the moves to make sure it wasn't, that there was not as much focal separation between your subject and the background, all those settings are going to change.
Yeah.
Even though the camera maybe has moved 15 feet and the light is the same.
And literally go out and try it. Push to the end of your lens, lower your f-stop as low to go, maybe f4, maybe f2.8. You might have a 50 millimeter prime that goes way lower than that. Lower your f-stop as low as it'll go.
At 1.8.
Yeah, 1.2, son.
1.4.
I got that 1.2 and 1.4 on them 50 primes.
Mm-hmm.
So you lower, just for our 7200, lower it all the way to 2.8.
Since when?
Push it all the way to the end of the lens, pull focus, and just look at your subject. Everything else around them, if you give them some depth behind them, now they can't be sitting against the wall. They got to have some room behind them and their background. So put them in the middle of a field, shoot them at the end of your lens, pull focus, and look. Everything else will be completely blurred. Now, start rolling that. Like, look in your frame and now start rolling that f number higher and higher. Okay. First thing you notice is it's going to start getting darker. So you're going to have to lower your shutter speed or bump up your ISO. As you do that, watch, you'll start to see detail come in your background. As that f-stop number goes up, you'll start seeing more and more detail. It'll still be out of focus, but instead of a blurred green something, you'll start noticing, okay, now that's a tree, that's a bush, whereas before you couldn't tell what it was because you were all the way at the end of your lens. Now, do the same thing backed all the way up to 70 millimeters or 24 millimeters or whatever the shortest millimeters is on your lens, reframe, and run your f-stop number all the way to the bottom. Well, they're not going to be near as blown out. Your background's not going to be near as blown out as it was at the end of your lens because focal length and f-stop work together. The lower your f-stop and the further you are in your focal length, the more blown out your subject is. But it also is how there's so much less that you can focus. It's a tiny little sliver of focus. That's how you use your lenses and your camera settings to work for you, not against you. And this is the quote unquote cinematic look, how you separate your subject from the background.
You basically take a 2D, which is your screen, and you use that focal length to make it look
3D,
three-dimensional
yeah.
by separating your background and your subject.
That's exactly right. And watch any good produced thing. I don't care if it's sports. I don't care if it's Netflix show. I don't care what it is. If it's a highly produced show, you're never going to see everything in focus. Only what the producer wants you or the director wants you to see will be in focus. Everything else will be either slightly blurred or very, very blurred. And that is how you draw your subject's eye to exactly what you want them to focus on. Next time you're watching a good like drama or something, watch how they'll rack focus. They'll literally rack focus from one person to the other. So they'll roll focus from one subject to the next, and that automatically draws your eye. It's just like when you're looking at someone in the room. Pay attention next time you've got multiple people in the room. And I try and do this now. I didn't never do it before. But say you're talking to, like, I'm looking at you, he's out of focus. Like, I'm looking at Ryer, Clay's out of focus. But now I look at Clay, he's in focus, you're out of focus. You're both still in my frame. When I say my frame, my eyes. But it depends on who I look at. It's the same thing in videography. Whatever you want people to look at is what you pull focus on. It's exactly the same. And your eyes work the same way your camera does. You don't think you do, but it's the exact same way your eyes work just like the camera does. Your eyes are better than your camera, but they work the exact same way.
Maybe your guys' eyes are.
Well, your eye. Your one eye. Sorry. Got a question from Dustin Apple. Lens choices. Blowout like comparing a portrait with 35 millimeter from 10 feet to a 200 millimeter at 60 feet. The 200 will give you a bokeh in front of it and behind the subject. Yeah, and that's the difference in lenses. So you hear that term bokeh. That's that blurring effect that you get by knowing how to use your lens. And some lenses do it way better than other lenses. And then it's how far away you move from things or how close you get to things. Like you use those 50 millimeters and you get super, super close to something, pull focus, is really going to blur everything behind it. 70 to 200, you back way up, push to the end of that lens. It's really going to blur things behind it. But it's all how you set up your subject and knowing how to use your lens, knowing how to set your subject out from a background. Like you don't want to ever do interviews against a wall, you know, in a studio. Like this, like for instance, this is not high production value what we're doing because everything's in focus. This isn't production at all. This is just so you can see everybody and hear us talking. If we were producing this, it would look a lot different than it does right now, because this is literally informational. This is a different type of production. This isn't a cinema. This isn't a movie. So we're going to shoot it differently than we would if we're telling a story in the field. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to kind of cover in terms of settings and lenses. Like what are some of like if somebody asks you what settings are you using, like is that kind of what that's kind of what I wanted to cover.
I usually ask them, well, for what?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, or like what? Show me a clip or a photo of like what you want to get, and I can tell you.
Yeah,
I can't tell you verbatim like what I had or what's gonna get the right exposure, but I can tell you, yeah, your f-stop needs to be this, and then work all your other settings around that, and it'll look like that.
Yeah, and that's. I don't know, where do you start when you start to take a picture? Do you start at your f-stop or do you start at your shutter speed?
When I'm taking a picture?
Yeah. Or video or anything, really?
More often than not, video, I don't touch the shutter speed hardly ever, unless it gets super low light. And then like I said, I'll bump it from, I've been doing a lot of TV lately, so I'll bump it from, and there's a question from Bubba Crosby real quick that I'm going to go into while I'm talking here because it literally goes to it ties into this. You know, when it starts to get really dark, I'll bump that from 60 to 30 to get more light. But generally shooting video, I will keep the shutter speed the same. And Bubba Crosby asked, is there a negative effect of running a higher than double shutter speed? And he's thinking for a bright daylight shooting 24 FPS and preserving a low f-stop. So it's not so much of a negative effect. Nothing is a negative effect usually. Anything and everything has a purpose and can be used artistically and can be used to tell a story or make the viewer feel a certain way. But generally speaking, the accepted way to have the most natural feeling footage is to have your shutter speed be double that of your frame rate because of kind of gets back into like the history of movies and what people are used to seeing on screen. But there's a certain amount of motion blur that a 60 or a 48 shutter speed at 24 frames a second will give you. And that is what they have found to be the most pleasing to the eye. As you increase that shutter speed to more than double, you'll find that, and you may not really be able to like nitpick it out, but the footage will look really jittery and it'll look really sharp and almost in an unpleasing sort of manner.
It looks awkwardly crisp.
Yeah, it looks awkwardly crisp because there's no motion blur. You're not getting the motion blur that you're used to seeing.
Sports are generally shot in higher shutter speeds because they want that detail and that sharpness, whereas film is not. And say that, and I guess I get to expand on that question. How do you, in bright sunshine, if you don't want to up your shutter speed for video, how do you achieve, and you don't have ND filters, which is another thing that you need to learn how to use. If you're not using your NDs and you have them, you should. What's another way to do it is that's by polarizer filters. They're fairly cheap. You just find out what millimeter your lens is, order them on Amazon, and it's virtually sunglasses for your camera. It will lower that exposure, or that you keep your shutter speed where you want it, work your exposure around that. We use polarizers all the time taking pictures during the day, which we try not to take pictures during the middle of the day. We try and you need to try and limit your footage. If you're really trying to produce something good, you need to limit your filming to when the lighting's good. When you have nice overcast, that first hour of daylight, last hour light, those are the golden hours. Those are the times that your footage is going to look the best. We try not to ever really take pictures and shoot high value video in the middle of the day because it looks like crap. You've got harsh shadows, bright highlights, and there's just no way to make it good without a lighting truck and a 20-foot scrim to shade your sun. And we don't have the budget for that or the time. So that's another really easy way to make sure things look good is pick the right times to do them, or hire a lighting truck, one or the other. And we don't have lighting trucks.
Oh.
Got another question from the calling guys. Lenses for time lapse at night.
As wide as possible.
So night lapses. Yeah, you want a wide lens. We generally shoot them. I generally shoot mine on 16 to 35 and a fast lens. And what a fast lens means is one that's the f-stop number goes low. I've shot a mini night lapse on a 24 to 105 with an f4 lens. Turned out great. The better ones are on my 16 to 35 that go down to 2.8. And because you generally shoot nighttime photos wide open, as low as your f-stop will go, and your shutter speed generally almost as low as it'll go to close to as low as it'll go. And then your ISO. Your ISO is what really, your ISO and your shutter is what changes on astro photos. Those are the things you got to play with to get it right. The hardest thing about astro photos is getting it dark enough or not having clouds or not fogging up overnight. I can't tell you how many time lapse has been ruined by them fogging up. But
I just had one the other day ruined by that.
Yeah, ruined. I mean, that's why I don't like shooting them
Shame too.
late season. I
Yes.
virtually don't shoot them because you can't keep them from fogging up.
Yeah.
Without stringing out, heaters and wrapping stuff around them or having them in a controlled environment, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
The best time to shoot them is in the summertime and the early fall, and then the spring. In the late winter time, it just gets too cold at night and they fog up. So, lost my train of thought. Oh.
Caveat to this, though,
Caveat, go ahead.
is, and I just did this for the first time. Like you're saying, when you're trying to achieve a certain look, you mess with the camera settings. And generally, maybe there's an accepted way to do things, but you can also kind of deviate from that to get a different look.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
every single time lapse I've ever shot up until this point was like what you said. It was a wide open. Yeah, I'm not cool. I got those f4 lenses. I don't have those f2.8s, but f4. Like a 16 to 35, 24 to 105. I'm running a 20 to 30 second shutter speed, all that stuff. And I went out there and I set it up like that, and I kind of was like, this isn't like there's so much light. This is so bright. There's a barn light, and I thought, I wonder what would happen if I messed around and took the same concept that I use when I'm trying to get like a cool sunburst photo during like the morning, the sunrise, or the evening, like what me and Clay have been battling over lately. And I think that I've won.
No, here nor there. Here nor there.
But and I think this just will also prove that I've won.
I know exactly where it's going.
I took, and instead of running that lens at a f4, I bumped that all the way up to f22 or 18 for a night lapse.
Okay.
And
Hold my beer.
and what that gave me is, instead of having that barn light be this just almost orb of light that was just destroying the entire image, it like shrinks it all down nice and gives it that sunburst look. And there was so much light because there was a full moon and all of the barn light and the house light, that you could still retain all, like, it wasn't too dark, and there's still little pinpricks of stars, and that was all I was going to get anyways because of how much light there was in the sky. I wasn't going to be able to get, that Milky Way or the really cool, like, millions of stars look because there's just too much light in the sky anyways.
That was where I lost my train of thought. I was going to say that's the other hardest part about doing a night lapse is finding a place where you don't have light pollution.
Yeah, and sometimes the light pollution is the freaking moon.
Yeah.
And you can't make it go away.
Yeah.
Unless it's fake.
There's only a couple
Call it NASA.
situations that is just ideal for night lapsing.
Yeah.
Like I bet I've shot, I don't know, hundreds of night lapses, and I bet I've got 24 that turned out really good.
Yeah.
They're really hard to get good. The situations just no pun intended, the stars have to align for everything to go right, for a night lapse to be good. Yeah, most of them suck. Best
Yeah.
ones I've ever done were in Africa, in my opinion, because there's no light pollution whatsoever and no moon.
There's no moon in Africa?
Oh, there wasn't when I was there.
Oh.
There was just virtually no moon. Yeah, it was underfoot, as they say.
Really?
Yeah, you never heard that?
No.
The moon's underfoot.
Never heard that. You heard that?
Yes, multiple times.
I ain't never heard that.
Must be a
Anyways, the moral of
California
my
thing.
story was,
Killing me, Smalls.
because I wanted the sun flare burst thing, I messed with my f-stop. And so that's what knowing what you want and what settings will get you there comes into play.
Yeah. Let me look at my notes. I think we pretty much covered it. Shooting at high frame rate. So we do shoot in high speed sometimes, which requires a higher shutter speed, which when you shoot in high speed, 120 frames a second, 180 frames a second, 240 frames a second, your shutter speed has to be a minimum of those things or the camera won't let you do it. What does that mean? That means the image is going to be darker. That's why you don't ever see kill shots in like really low light in high speed, because you can't do it. There's not enough light. So when I say high speed, a lot of guys think it's cool to see high speed kill shots. So do I. But there are times that you can use high speed as a crutch, just like you can use drone as a clutch, just like you can use, not as a clutch, as a crutch, just like you can use time lapses and voiceover and interviews. All these things can be overdone. Is there a perfect balance? No. Am I biased towards certain things? Yes. So what I like and what you like, or what Ryer likes or what Clay likes, might be different than what you're doing or what you're producing. Bottom line is kind of what goes back to what Ryer just said. You've got to be creative. You can't get stuck in one rut. You can't say everything I'm going to do is going to be cool music with high speed footage. Everything I'm going to do is going to be pretty footage with voiceover. Everything I'm going to do is going to be lots of interviews with some B-roll over it. You've got to have a good mix of all those things. You've got to know how to use those things as tools, not as crutches.
Well, I think you also, the same thing with camera settings and the same thing with lenses.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
I recently, I found myself taking almost all of my pictures with a 16-35.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you told me this.
Yeah, I was just loved the look of the 16-35. I still love the look of the 16-35, but I was kind of thinking about it, and like I'd have Clint or Aaron around, and they were shooting on longer lenses, and I'm shooting on the 16-35, and I go, I haven't shot on a longer lens in a long time, and they're getting these shots, and I look at their shots, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I can't do that with the 16-35, and I realized just unknowingly that I had almost just defaulted to the 16-35, and that I was just using it for almost everything, and I went, I can't do that. I need to put the 16-35 away and take out like the 24-105 or the 70-200 so that I don't
very
make
least
the
challenge
same
yourself.
stuff.
Yeah, very least challenge yourself to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And try to get a different look, or see what kind of things I can do with the 24-105 that I have been not doing with the 16-35, and learn the strengths of that lens.
That's the other thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
What lenses lend themselves to certain things. So if I just this is generally speaking, guys, so don't take this as gospel. Generally, when I think of my 16-35, I think of a camera for recoveries, because they make deer look big. Recovery pictures, kill pictures, because they make deer look big.
Mm-hmm.
And night lapse pictures, or night lapse imagery. That's what I use my wide lenses for, my 16-35, or wide lenses in general. 24-105, which is my medium lens, is my workhorse. I use that one the most. That one's in the tree stand with me generally, because I can center scan and make it a 200 millimeter for bow hunts. If I had to, I have it for all the dialogue, all the talking, all the in-truck, all the heavy lifting. That's your heavy lifting lens, because it's wide enough to do all those things, but also have enough focal length to where you can be creative with it. Mm-hmm. So it's got the best of both worlds. That lens is on my camera 80% of the time, if not more than that. 70-200 I view as a really pretty creative lens that I can shoot interviews with, that I can get really specialty stuff with, and it's a really good kill lens, because it's a great length. It is great for kills. It sucks for when you want to come back and get a reaction because it's too long. So that's the only drawback to it. So we almost carry DSLRs to try and get that reaction now and just run audio on the big camera. So generally those are the 3 lenses I carry, and that's kind of how I break. Is that kind of how you guys view those 3 lenses? Which you use the 18 to 200, 18 to
Mine's 18 to 105.
18
so I
to
have
105.
I have a 16 1.4.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 50 1.4 and an
Mhm.
18 to 105. It's an f4.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of similar. Which you've got a 50. I don't have a 50. I want to get a 50 for the R5 to carry on me.
I got the 50 1.8. You want it?
I want to try it.
It's that one that you used for the last year, those Christmas photos for your buddy.
Yeah.
Engagements. You can have it.
Oh, really? I want to.
It's the size of the adapter.
Yeah, I want to try one for that camera.
You didn't offer me it when we were just talking.
Yeah, but he writes my check.
So, but you pretty much got the same lens as I do.
Yeah, I think the only difference is up until this last hunt, I ran a 18 to 200 Sony lens on the FS7 almost exclusively for video.
See, the only thing I don't have is a 70 to 200.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say that landscapes you can do with that 16 to 35.
Yeah, I didn't say landscape. Yeah.
The only other thing I would add to the wide angle would be, like companies in the hunting industry like seeing their stuff being used.
Mm-hmm.
So any type of like product in its environment being used, I like to do wide because it shows everything. So like in the tree stand stuff or anything like that, I'll use it for that too.
Yeah.
And that, your 16 to 30, some of these things are also dictated by the amount of space that you have to work with.
Yeah.
Like if I'm on a spot and stock hunt, you get more room to be like, okay, well, I can run this 24 to 105. I just have to be a couple steps further back to get this medium shot I want. If you're in a ground blind or you're in a tree stand, you may not have the room to get far enough back with that 24 to 105 or the 70 to 200 to get that medium shot, and that's where your 16 to 35 comes in. Same thing with like a rifle hunt where you need to really get up close to the animals, and obviously you're going to be stuck back wherever the rifle is. That's where you bring out that 150 to 600, and
Bazooka.
you can zoom all the way in with that 600 millimeters, 1200 if you really want to get fancy and center scan it.
Feels
and
like
you
you're in an earthquake the whole time.
Yeah.
Man.
It's very difficult to
Yeah.
get things in focus, but
They really need some image stabilization real bad.
yeah. But you also have to take that into consideration. Like, what room do I have to work with, and
How much weight do I want to carry?
how much weight? Yeah, I mean, I carried all three. I carried all 3 of the lenses every day, but I mean,
My theory is I won't use 2 of them for 2 weeks and then I'll decide not to take them and I'll need them. I carry them all the time.
that's generally how it happens.
Yep.
Another thing I wanted to talk about relating to lenses, and this is, I guess, more of like a fuzzy thing to talk about, but
Fuzzy?
well, so like I don't know,
like
whenever
that descriptor at all, but go ahead.
well,
Makes
whenever
me
I
uncomfortable.
whenever I was in college for the year that I went, like you would have your technical majors, which is like engineering and science and math and stuff, and they'd have fuzzy majors, which is like your psychology, your arts, that sort of
okay.
stuff. So to me, this is not like this isn't a technical thing we're about to talk about. This is more of like a kind of a psychological thing we're going to talk about.
Okay.
I know now you're like, wow, really? I really don't want to do this now. But I think you also need to think about not only technically what kind of things you're getting out of your lens and what it can do, but psychologically, how does the lens that you're using affect your image, and how does that make your viewer feel, right? Because if you've got, let's say, a 16 to 35, and you're filming everything on that 16 to 35, your camera has to be very close to your subject, and it's going to make your viewer feel like they are right next to your subject. Now, if you were to film all of the same shots, all of the same framing, more or less, on a 70 to 200, you're getting an entirely different look, and your viewer subconsciously is going to feel more removed from your subject.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason I think about that is because you guys know I keep talking about it. One of my favorite series right now is Last Chance U. It's a really cool Netflix documentary series about these junior college football programs. And I went on a deep dive and started nerding about how they were producing this. And in one of the interviews, the guy said that they made a conscious decision to put an 18 millimeter on their cameras because they wanted to, instead of doing the usual documentary thing where you put the camera in a safe location, give it a big lens, zoom in and capture it, they wanted that camera in people's faces, on the sidelines, in the middle of the huddles, in all of the quote-unquote dangerous places, but like right up next to their subjects, because that makes the viewer feel so much closer to the subjects and so much more a part of the action.
And as a viewer, do you feel that when you watch it?
100%.
Yes.
They
When I
said-
watch that show, you feel like you're in there with them. It doesn't feel like you're watching them from the stands. It feels like you're standing right next to them as they're going through all these things, as they're playing, as they're going through whatever situations or emotions that they're going through. You feel like you're stood right next to them, and there's a connection that you have to the subjects and to the guys and to the team because of that. And it's an entirely different feel than had they done long lenses and done it all that way.
They said that the only two cameras that have a zoom lens are the two end zone cameras because they're forced to have a zoom lens.
Mhm.
Everything else, if the camera operator is walking around and it's not sitting on a tripod, the lens isn't any of a larger local length than 50. It's 50 or less.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just
Yeah.
an important thing to
Yeah.
think about once you get into the realm where you start to really want to dive into that kind of stuff. You know, these are the kind of things that you're talking about when you're saying, know what each of these things means, know how to use it, and know what it's going to do for you. And then you could go, I want this look, I want this feel, I want this type of picture, I want this type of image. And you go, okay, here are what I need to do to achieve that. And make conscious decisions to work to get those images.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the psychology and the thought process behind, which we talked about this with Bluestem, like getting really intimate shots, really tight shots of eye, shots of hands,
Mm-hmm.
shots of the dogs, all the things that are quote unquote intimate or sexy or gritty and dirty, like all those things need to be tight. And those are things that have to be achieved with a certain setup, certain lensing, a certain settings on your camera, all of those things.
And where were we when we got those shots?
Right in their face.
Like, if you look at any of the behind the scenes, I mean, we're 6 inches from the dudes
Yeah.
the whole time. Right next to them in the blind, literally running out after them and with them to and from the blind.
Yeah.
Like right next to them in the truck. And I feel like that came through in the
Yeah.
final product.
Yeah, I do
Like
too.
you feel like you're right there with the dudes.
Yeah.
And,
And-
that's like you said, being conscious about
Yeah.
trying to get that stuff.
Just producer stuff, man. It's just
Just-
producer stuff.
You know what it be?
I want to end this on another question that I've gotten. That
Wait, we have a comment though. It's
Okay, go
for
ahead.
Clay.
Go ahead.
This is from Mike Hearn, and he says,
Can't wait.
I have to censor it because Mike Hearn
It's a
is
savage.
It's a savage. This is actually nice. He said a nice thing. He says, "Gosh darn, is Clay good looking?" I think you got yourself a fan there,
God,
Clay.
fanboy.
Making me blush, Mike,
Oh man. Oh, Mike, he killed a good deer the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
on public land.
Yeah. Mike, we love you, buddy.
Apparently,
No.
he thinks I'm ugly. So
Yeah, I didn't get a comment either. So.
yeah, I thought we were friends, Mike. Apparently, I mean nothing to you. Thank you.
To close this out, unless we have any more questions come in, I want to talk about the FX6.
Mm.
Got a couple questions about it and what our thoughts were. And I watched. Did y'all watch the Philip Bloom thing?
Mhm.
I watched
every
a
sec-
different one
watched
from
every
somebody
second
else,
of
but
it.
yeah.
Philip Bloom. Well, I can't remember his exact words, but he's like, "This thing is amazing. It's
Looks
incredible
pretty sweet.
He basically said it's the FX9, the size of an FS5,
with more features.
with more features of the FX9.
Just
so
crazy.
it's the best of both worlds of a cinema style camera with
In a
the
small package.
A7S sensor guts, and it's got all the menu buttons, all the manual rings, and
It's basically a Cinema A7S3.
Yeah.
Just basically with the Venice colors.
the only thing I have against it, and I know this is even dumb to say, is it seems I ran the FS5. You have an FS5.
Mhm.
I'm a big guy. I feel like the camera's going to look and feel funny. It's going to be so small.
Well, you two going from the
Yeah.
FS7s to the FX6,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be a loss for a little bit. But I think if we went from the FS7s to the FX9, I would be lost and you two wouldn't. Not lost, but feel uncomfortable.
Well, and that's really the form factor is, and I love the fact that it's smaller and lighter. I'm all about that
Money
life.
save Trump money on travel.
I'm all the because I mean
Smaller arm.
we could essentially fit everything into one Pelican
That's what I
instead of
do.
taking two.
Every
yeah,
camera I have is in that.
yeah.
Pelican.
See, I can't do that with FS7. I do like that. That's going to save us time and energy and money in the long run. I'm not I don't like the price. I don't like that at all. But we'll probably sell one or two FS7s and figure out how we can do it. But in terms of, is it something we will think about buying? Yeah, we will have one. How soon? I don't know. The way that camera releases are right now, like we waited from August to, when did I get the R5? October?
Like
End of October?
3 weeks ago.
Right
Yeah.
before.
And I love it, by the way. I think we talked about it in the last podcast. Love it. So, yeah, we'll have one or two of those for sure. Just because it's a step up from the FS7. And our FS7s, we've had a good run. They've had a real good run.
They've had a very good run.
Yeah, they have been, and you want to talk about a way more rugged camera. I mean, we've had some mishaps with them. Let's be honest. Yours took a saltwater bath.
I was about to say, you're really peering into my soul when you talked about mishaps.
I'm really glad that happened just as soon as you start working here too, and I had to pay for it. That was my favorite part of that.
Wasn't as soon as it's been a year.
It's been a year. It was just.
Okay.
It was this past August.
It's been a whole
Or
year.
July.
A whole year.
A whole year.
Yeah, but I want to watch some more stuff about the FS6. But X6.
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea if we could rent one.
I don't. Yeah,
Well,
I'll probably just buy one.
I don't think. See, here's the thing. He's already convinced. If we had to convince Caleb, then we would rent one.
See, here's
Because I've noticed a theme. This is what happens. This happened twice.
Yep. And there's this is gone.
Is you'll be like, oh, I don't know about that. Maybe we'll do that. And then we go on a shoot. Somebody's got the thing, and you run it for like a day or two, and then it's ordered.
The red, the R5.
Yeah. Well, I liked it. I like it. I like that R5. Yeah, Austin Thomas ruined me on that.
What do you think about the red?
Honestly, I told y'all we ran it twice since we got it. Breaks my heart.
It does. It breaks my
It really
heart.
breaks my heart a lot. But
Practicality wise.
it's not practical. It's such a pain in the butt. It's a huge pain in the butt. And Dustin Apple just talked about the Komodo. You know what? The Komodo can kiss my butt too. The red in general can kiss my butt at this moment. It's just overpriced pain with a gorgeous image. That's what it is.
It does have a gorgeous image. And not only does it have a gorgeous image,
know
you
what
know
it
what
is?
else is gorgeous? The pictures of me
Oh god.
running the red.
Well, this is
Or you running the
this-
red.
Yeah, can I,
or Clay
if
running
we're
the
gonna
red.
get rid of it, can I at least run it for a couple days for some pictures, and then
Sitting
you can
right
sell
there.
it?
It's sitting right there. It's been sitting right there the whole
He
time.
just needs a new profile pic.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things to where it's
This
like
one.
it's like an extremely, like it's a girl that you want to date or you take on a date, and you spend like a small fortune on dinner, she won't talk to you at all. And it's like really nothing gets going. And then at the very end, she just gives you the look. And then she goes inside, and that's all you get. But that one look was worth the whole night. You're broke. You spent a weekend.
You're still single.
You spent a weekend. You're still single, but she looked at you. That's the red. That's what the red is.
And maybe she'll look at you again in a few months.
Yeah. That's
And it's
what the
gonna
red
Once
is.
a year,
and it's
once a
gonna
year
cost you
maybe.
money to get that look.
That's what
Yeah.
the red is. So, yeah,
It's a nice look.
it's a nice look, though.
real nice
It's a real nice look.
Real nice, Clark.
She's wearing a nice, scandalous dress. But you got to look. That's it.
and pay for it.
And
What?
you pay for it. No, she don't work.
You work for it.
She don't work. You work for it.
You work for it. Mhm.
Gosh, ain't that the truth? All right, I think we're going to end the podcast. We might hang out for a few more minutes on the live, see if anybody else has any questions. Peace. I didn't do the outro. Dang it. Shut up, Ryder.
Oh, I think that's like the third time you've done
I
that.
know, yeah, well, you're real funny. Real funny guy.
Oh, you
Um,
got jokes, do you?
Hour and 20 minutes on the live. All right, anybody else got any more questions before we get off of here?
Same thing on the Instagrams.
Give you all a few more minutes. God, it's 6:30. My gosh.
Oh yeah, my clock is off.
What's your clock say?
5:30. It's still in Central Time apparently.
Oh, yeah, you'd be wrong there, bud.
I haven't been wearing a watch the past 4 days because I haven't had to be anywhere,
Oh,
so I just don't put the watch on.
you went on any dates on any more chiquitas?
Hmm?
Any more dates lately?
It's just stacking them up, man.
Just stacking them up.
You know how it be. I don't what. Okay, so I got like tree sap on this, and now I can't.
You know how you get it out?
No.
You rub it in your hair, the oil of your hair. I'll get it out.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm not putting tree sap in my hair. I almost got tree sap in my beard. It took me like 3 hours to get it out because I like brushed my beard against the tree.
Okay. How did you do that?
I was tree arm trying to get the ratchet
Oh.
strap around the tree.
Yeah, I have short arms. Kip had to help me get the strap around the tree just about every day.
Got a big head and little arms.
Very short arms.
All T-Rex arms going on there.
Nobody ever helped me with a flipping camera arm. I always had to do it myself. Chuck Belmore's allergic to camera gear.
But
He's allergic.
But he owns it.
Yeah. That's what was so amazing to me when he bought it. I'm like, Chuck, you refuse to touch a camera on a trip. Like, I tell you to turn on the Osmo on your side of the blind, refuses.
Oh, did I tell you I got an Osmo?
Yeah, I think so. I told you I got you that one, then you're like, oh, I thought that one was for Ryer.
Oh, see, I was trying to help him out, and here I am trying to be considerate. And
Yeah, Chuck, I
Thanks,
hope he
bro.
listens to this too. He's allergic to camera gear, and it pisses me off because I'll set it up like we're sitting in the blind and you're Chuck. I'll put the freaking thing over there looking at him.
Never turns it on.
Deer comes in, like, hey, Chuck, turn on the Osmo. Turn on the Osmo. You got time. You got time. You got time. Oh, why did I even set it up?
Yeah,
Why did I even bring it? It makes me so mad.
see, and then you.
I've learned that that's like 80%
80,
of people with those. Like,
but then you have
they'll-
Kip, and Kip carries like 4 GoPro remotes all the time.
yeah,
All the time. And there's bino harness, just boom, 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 boom. Let's go.
yeah, he's really good about it. He's really good about it. But usually most people end up like that.
It's like they can't touch it. It's like you will get coronavirus if you touch that camera.
I'd lick it. If it was going to give me coronavirus, just to be done with it. Just give it to me. Give it to me and then give me my immunity card so then I could do what I want.
Yeah. I wish that was a thing.
Why can't we just like volunteer to get injected with corona?
Can we just put a big check mark on our forehead saying that we had it?
It's like you're verified on Instagram, but
Yeah.
but instead of that,
You
it's
get a purple mark on Instagram if you've had coronavirus. That's funny.
I want it to be red. I think
Red.
red would be good.
Red. Yeah.
Or black.
I don't care. Just do whatever you have to do so I don't ever have to wear a mask again or deal with stupid people. Like, what do I have to do? To pay money? How much is it?
How much? How much I got to pay? You probably could pay money, Caleb.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
It's
I'm
just
sure
a
there's
lot.
somebody you could pay. Yeah, and it's more than I got, but I'm sure there's somebody you could pay. And it's the amount of money is a lot because it means a private jet. And turns out, I talked to my buddy about his little jet service that he has here. It ain't cheap.
I told you that I would help you out with that.
You better be, yeah, right.
I told you that I would take it upon myself for the team, guys,
Yeah.
to get a pilot's license, learn how to fly the plane, so then you don't have to pay a pilot.
But is the
I'm
te-
already on
Is
salary.
the team paying for that pilot license though?
He would.
Well,
he,
I mean,
he
we haven't
saved-
worked that far
he
in
told-
advance.
that would save me $800 a day off of 15,000. So it's not a whole lot.
But it's still $800.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about you.
He told me the price. I was like, Jesus H. Christ, who is spending that much money? He's like, dude, people spend it all the time. I'm like,
Imagine
the wrong,
owning one
I'm in the wrong business.
or two.
I don't think. I think he leases them, but still, it's still so much money. All right, no more questions. You guys hate us. All right. Next time, peace.
Now I have to walk awkwardly over.